Hey, I'm Jacinta Daniel, writer, speaker, and host of Polished Jems. This podcast is for the ones rebuilding their faith, rediscovering their purpose, and returning to God, one fruit of the Spirit at a time. If that's you, hit subscribe and join the journey because healing is possible and your faith story isn't finished yet. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Polished Gems. Tonight I'm going to be teaching and equipping on faithfulness in relationships, showing up when it's hard. Guys, how many times has that been the case for you? Even when you didn't want to show up for someone or for a thing that it's still worth it to do so and to show up at your best too. So, guys, what I want to start with is the definition of faithfulness. Let's define it. So, faithfulness is defined as unwavering commitment, reliability, and loyalty towards God and others. Let me say that again. Unwavering commitment, reliability, and loyalty toward God and others. How many times can you actually say that you've done that? Right? Especially, like I said, in relationships where it's hard with people that you were like, I don't want to show up for you right now. Right? What I want you to remember about this theme for tonight is that faithfulness isn't just a word, it's a steady process of love and motion. It's a steady process of your unwavering commitment. It's a steady process of reliability. And it's a steady process of even showing loyalty to others. The Bible verse I also want you to anchor for tonight is First Corinthians chapter 4, 2 in the Amplified Version. And it says, in this case, moreover, it is required as essential and demanded of stewards that one be found faithful and even trustworthy. So now that we have those definitions, now that we have our Bible verse, let's talk about how God set up this covenant of loyalty. So, and his model and his version. Do you know that God constantly and consistently shows up for his people even when we fail him, even when we disobey him? How many times can you say to yourself that you have done everything that God has asked you to do? I can tell you that as a mom of two children, one that is now 15, the other one is now 9, even they have not done everything I've asked them to do. When I've asked them to do the dishes, when I have asked them to clean their rooms, when I have asked them to do just sometimes even simple tasks like go get a shower, there has been pushback depending on which age and which child, right? How many times do we do that with God? Was it the business you were supposed to start? Was it the job you were supposed to try and get? Was it the book that you were supposed to be working on? Was it the church he just wanted you to go to because that would be where the community is that you've been asking for community and like-minded people, but you chose not to go there? We do this to God all the time. And a lot of times we don't realize it's not with the big, big things or big, big decisions, but we do it with Him even in the small things when we don't go to the grocery store, when we don't get up at a certain time, right? When we don't move, when God asks us to move. And I'm not talking about to go get a new house or to go get a new apartment. I'm just talking about getting up. If He said wake up at 5 in the morning, then 5 in the morning is when he needs you to wake up. I've done that. I've done that. I have done that to God where I wasn't a morning person before. And what's funny now is I get up at 4:45. My alarm first gets me up then. I wake up and turn on worship music. I might roll back over some days, especially if I'm exhausted, but I start to get up at 4:45 and I find it funny because I remember when I told God I couldn't get up at 5. Like that just sounded impossible. And I think at the time I was getting up at like 7, maybe 8. And now I do it consistently. Like when I haven't gotten up, my body's like, what are we doing? Why are we not up yet? So it's funny how those things change. And it's funny how God works with you even if you just try, right? Even if you just try, it's funny how God will actually work with you and through you to help you achieve the thing that might seem impossible. I want you to also keep in mind Deuteronomy 7:9. It says, therefore, know without any doubt and understand that the Lord your God, He is God, the faithful God, who is keeping His covenant and His steadfast loving kindness to 1,000 generations with those who love Him and keep His commandments. I know you heard the part about God being faithful, but did you hear the part that He keeps His loving kindness steadfast, meaning it's consistent, it's ongoing with those who love Him and keep His commandments? Now, the ones that keep His commandments are the ones that choose to obey Him, not out of fear, but out of love, out of reverence for His holiness, for that we know He is God and God alone. So, in order to have this covenant of loyalty, what God has it set on is it's set on a foundation of love. And the love that it's set on is there's a difference between covenant love and culture's convenience love. Let me explain. Covenant love is steadfast, meaning it is ongoing, it is active, it is consistent. It is these words, right? And our culture's current convenience love that we've been seeing is conditional and it's optional. It is constantly saying, what can you do for me? How can you be of assistance to me? And it's something that we also see as optional, that we don't really have to take it, see it, or even operate in it ourselves. Like we don't even have to do anything ourselves as well. This foundation of love that I wanted to look into is covenant love is built on a decision. So God made a decision a long time ago that we, the human beings of this world, are His. We are His people, even the ones that have been grafted in. We have been adopted, even the ones by adoption. Okay, when He made that decision, we are His. We were made in His image. He gave us a rooted promise, a binding commitment to all of us. And it's much like how Christ and His commitment for His church. It's this decision to be loyal, to be faithful, and even forgiving. And it doesn't end when God's feelings fade. So, this is why covenant love is so different. Think about your marriage. Covenant love is something that you want to build up to or work up to, because it's the decision. It's every day getting up and saying, I choose my person, my spouse, that I love them this day. That's how we remain faithful in our marriages as well. The other type of love that I mentioned was convenience love. Know that it is built on emotion. Our culture today suggests that love is primarily this intense feeling that just sweeps us off our feet. You've all heard it makes you feel like a princess. This is why we love a good princess story, because the princess gets swept off her feet by the knight in shining armor and they live happily everly after. But what happens when that happily ever after feeling fades? And every relationship has its moments where that happens. Convenience love says, oop, something's wrong here. It's time to leave. So when times get tough in love and relationships, it can cause deep pain to those on the receiving end. And I have a question for those who operate in convenience love, because listen, I understand. I used to. Where does your faithfulness lie? Okay, I want us to all examine, where does our faithfulness lie? Does it lie in covenant love, or is it in convenience love? Let's talk about what showing up in relationship actually looks like so we can dig a little deeper here, like Mama Odie said. So there's our emotional presence and there's our mere physical presence, right? We need, when it comes, especially as human beings, we need both. God set it up and designed it in this manner. So let me paint you a picture. Thanksgiving's coming up. It's around the corner. Literally, the way the days have been going together, it'll be here before we all know it. So, for those who are sitting around a Thanksgiving table and getting ready to get with their family, of course, there's your physical presence, right? That's your presence of just sitting around the dinner table. But imagine this. What if your teenager is scrolling through TikTok, your spouse is checking work emails on their phone, and you're sitting there, even though you're about to eat, you're thinking about your grocery list and did you put everything out on the table? So everyone's in the same space. They're sitting around this dinner table, but they're all in their own little minds, different worlds, and thinking about everything, right? It's a quiet dinner. Maybe it feels a little tense, but you get the feeling like you're eating your meal alone, even with the people who are right next to you. Now, let's even look at emotional presence when it comes to the same dinner. Let's say the rule of thumb is put all the phones away, no one can have those. And then you start asking questions to your spouse, you start asking questions to your teenager, you start asking them, how was their day? You listen actively and you to what they're telling you. You even ask follow-up questions and then eventually share your own story about your day. You guys might even laugh together at a funny story being told by one of you guys. And then when dinner is over, you actually feel like you spent some time with each other, that you got more connected. You even grew a little closer as a family. The meal was not just about food, it actually became about connection. So when you listen actively, what you're doing there is you're serving without expectation, right? One of the things that I want you to look at is active listening does helps us to understand what the other person is saying. Watch their body language to see how they're feeling. Those are the things that we need to keep in mind as well. It allows us to even be very, very present, that we're not mentally, spiritually, or even physically elsewhere. We are present in that moment. The reward that we need to keep in mind too, that we get from active listening, even in that scenario that I just gave, is the immediate connection and of understanding. We don't have to wait for the results of how a person is feeling or how their day went. The results that we end up getting is a stronger bond because they felt like they were heard. They felt like someone took just 5 seconds, maybe even 5 minutes to hear and care about what their day was, how it treated them, and it shows a loving sign of respect. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is that keeping your word when it comes to listening and to attention brings about integrity as well. Integrity is needed when we are showing up in relationships, and it's something that we just have to realize that when we keep our word to people, that's also how we show faithfulness. I'll go back to my example with God. And even my children. I'll start with my children. When I ask my children to do the dishes, and I say, if you could do the dishes now, but they wait 3 hours later. Let's say they said okay too earlier, right? Then I'm expecting them to have integrity by keeping their word, by telling not 4 or 5 hours later that they're actually getting up to do the dishes. So the same with God. God expects us, if we partner with him, if we say, yes, God, I choose to obey you. or I choose to listen to your instruction. And God says, I need you to start getting up at 5 in the morning, but you lounge in bed till 7, till 6, till pick a time, right? Keeping our word, even to God, helps us grow in integrity. It even helps us when it comes to dealing with other people, especially when it's hard to do so. So, what I want you to realize is the reward of keeping our word and being integral with each other, even in our relationships, is we get long-term trust. We build up this long-term trust with other people because when we consistently follow through, people learn that they can count on us, that we're reliable, that it's not just about how we listen today, right? But that we can be trusted even tomorrow. So when I say, oh, I'm going to read something for you and I'll have back my feedback, we're being trusted that the day that we said, the time that we gave them, we will have it back either before that date or on that deadline. Can you be trusted like that at work? Can you be trusted like that in your relationship with your spouse? Can you be trusted like that even with your children? Time and time again, I have heard people say that their children, or I've even heard adults say that they don't like promises because they feel like human beings don't keep their promises. Do you know that breaks down our ability to be faithful? The more and more that people disappoint us and stuff like that, and then we don't deal with those things, we start feeling like people aren't faithful. They can't be trusted. Then we assign that and attach that to God. We go, God can't be trusted, even though God's been the more consistent um, being in even my own life. But we start assigning that to Him when we don't feel as if we can't trust people, and we see we gotta pick up slack or do other things as well. The other thing I want you to keep in mind, especially when it comes to faithfulness and building it up, is we've got to get to a place of serving without expectation is about generosity. Serving without expectation, again, like I said, is one that is just pure generosity. When we have expectations, we get back into that want operating in that convenience love, where it's optional, it's conditional, it has all of these things attached to it. And we have got to understand that when it comes to faithfulness, especially in showing up in relationships, is that there are times that you really need to just serve without expectation. I'll give you a prime example. One of the things my husband and I do is I will make his coffee in the morning. One of the things that he'll do even for me is without asking, because he knows one of the things that is consistent about me is every morning I want a cup of coffee until God tells me I need to stop. But one of the things right now, I like a cup of coffee in the morning because what I do in the morning is when I sit with my cup of coffee, I'm normally sitting, taking a moment to talk to God. It's the time in the morning of the day that I'm normally the most still, other than when I'm asleep. So I like to sit, plan my day with God. I like to sit, and if I'm writing a book, I like to sit and take that time. So what he'll do is he'll make me my coffee, but he's not expecting anything in return. And just because he made me my coffee, it's not my necessary obligation to feel like, oh, I got to do something for him because he did something nice for me. Sometimes it's just allowing what I want you to realize. We sometimes translate that even with God. Like when God does something nice for us, we want to repay that. How? He's God. He is God and God alone. How are we supposed to do that? But sometimes we will do that to people. If they do something nice to us, it is often hard for us to just allow the nice thing or the thing of kindness or generosity to even be done to us. It's hard for us to just say thank you and accept it. That it is what it is, and we don't have to do something back because they did something for us. What I want us to get to is the reward is for us. It's an internal reward as well. It's the satisfaction of knowing that we did something good for someone without needing anything back. When we serve without expectation, the other person might be grateful, but that's a bonus. That's not the goal. It's about respecting a person's humanity. So, what I want you to take away from all this is that active listening is a skill of attention that deepens the present moment connection with someone in relationships. Keeping your word is a practice of integrity that builds up future trust. And lastly, serving without expectation is an act of generosity and it fills your own heart with purpose. This is how we can show up when it comes to relationships. Let's talk about some barriers, though, to faithfulness, because I don't want to just give you how you can operate in it in the best way without letting you know some things that you just got to be mindful of along the way. Let's start with this first one, and this first one I can attest to overcommitment and busyness. When you say yes to everything, it is hard to show up as your best self. We have learned that in our society. This is why we have turned to talking about mental health because a lot of us have been yes people for everyone. We have taken away the job of allowing God to be God, that we have said yes to everyone and everything. What if God wants to show them his loving kindness and his faithfulness, but we're steady being the ones showing up? I can tell you, I have constantly done that. I have shown up for my family. I have done that on multiple occasions. And listen, I learned that even from speaking with one of my recent friends, Nikisa. She was on the podcast that will be coming up December when she said those words that I just mentioned about showing up for other people constantly, not saying no when you need to. When I tell you, she delved more into that. Ooh, that's going to be a good one. But overcommitment in business hinders us when it comes to being faithful in relationships. Fear of vulnerability. So when we're scared to show up for others, like if I show up, will I get hurt in the process? That's especially timely for relationships. A lot of times we're scared to love again. What if God is asking you, like He did me? He told me I was going to get remarried after my divorce, after my separation. And I was so scared. I was like, well, what if I get hurt? What if the person doesn't love me like they say it, but they don't show it? Like I was nervous. I had fears surrounding getting married again. And that fear of vulnerability was stifling my faithfulness to even God, to trust that God would help me with the person that needed to be in my life. Not only help me find a person that I needed, but also wanted. Another one is our unhealed wounds from past betrayals. I'm gonna still use my previous marriage as an example. I had unhealed wounds from past betrayals. That was a barrier to my faithfulness and even showing up for my kids sometimes because I felt like things were so tough, things were so hard. How am I supposed to do this as well? And it even, when God was asking me to get married again, it even felt like, how am I supposed to do all that? I felt battle weary from the separation and divorce. I'm like, dating again sounds like something crazy. Like, why even put yourself through that torture? But that's how I saw it. That's not how God was seeing it, but that's how I saw it at that time. So look at what acts of faithfulness or what barriers of faithfulness are affecting you as well. Um, Look at what areas of overcommitment or busyness have you put in place, maybe even as a distraction, so that you don't have to focus on really being faithful to others? And I'm not just talking about in a relationship sense of like spouse or lover or things of that nature, but I'm talking about with your family, at work, with your kids. Look at every area as well. Same with fear of vulnerability. Where have you been afraid to be vulnerable? Where are you not supposed to say certain things, right? But there's a certain level of vulnerability that allows us access, especially in relationships, different types of relationships that we have. And also, are there any unhealed wounds? Are there any traumas, any past betrayals that stop you from really opening up, even at church, where you're supposed to? So you can get the community or friends that you've been asking God for. So look through everything. One other thing that I want to give you is just a faithfulness framework. Here are some practical tools while you're looking through those barriers as well. Let's audit your commitments. If you're stretched too thin, where are you stretched too thin to show up well? Start examining that. That's the question that you need to ask. Oh God, where am I stretched too thin to show up well? Another tip that you can use is choose one relationship to intentionally invest in for the next 30 days. Go to God and ask Him, God, which one of my relationships, family, at work, church, your children, etc., can I intentionally invest in over the next 30 days? And then ask Him, what does that investment also look like, right? Because for that particular person, it might look different. Like, what I mean is, if it's your spouse that God says, that looks different than what you might need to do with and for your children. Does that make sense? Then, what I want you to do is to create small check ins, like weekly check ins, text encouragements. Is it prayer calls? What does that look like? What does God want you to intentionality actually look like? Okay. And then build accountability. Who can you be accountable as you intentionally invest into that relationship over the next 30 days? Is it a trusted friend that you can trust with what you're doing? Or is it just a journal so you can kind of follow along with your progress? You pick. So, guys, I challenge you as we go into December. Yeah, I challenge you for all of December to ask God, is there one relationship this week or this month where I can show up with full presence and integrity and faithfulness? And then ask Him how, ask Him what does intentionality and investment look like, and then keep a journal somewhere so you can see your progress. I would love if you would share with me what you've done or your commitment or what God allows you to share as well over on our social media pages or even under this YouTube channel. And just even testimonies of how God has blown your mind when it comes to showing up intentionally and faithfulness in relationships, even if you're able to share just a little bit. But run that by God too, because some things aren't for everybody as well. But guys, thank you for this teaching session. Thank you for tuning in to Polished Gems. I hope that this information has helped you to understand how to show up in relationships, to understand that covenants and loyalty are a part of faithfulness, and that you can even do it when it's hard to do so. Guys, I hopefully this has blessed you and this information. Please share it with a friend. Take notes if you need to rewatch it as well. But love y'all, and y'all have a great rest of your evening, and talk to you on another podcast. Bye.